Good morning, everyone. Martha Ermias here, coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio. And today is Wednesday, July the 18th, I believe. I always mess up the dates. So yeah, today is Wednesday, and I do have a special guest that I'm interviewing on our Facebook Live today, and it's going to be really exciting. Make sure that you share this and let your friends know. It's a great story that we'll be hearing, and I'll bring in the guest really quickly right now. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Martha Ermias, and I am an entrepreneur from Columbus, Ohio, and every day, Monday to Friday. Hi, Joseph. Good to see
Hey,
you.
how's it going? Good.
Okay, we got it here. So, yeah, a lot of people are joining us. So, for those of you who are just joining, please go ahead and welcome Joe Whitley, our special guest today, who is a trainer and also an author and a speaker. And he's going to be sharing some useful information right here on Facebook today. So, please go ahead and say welcome and good morning to Joseph. How are you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing this morning, Martha?
I'm doing really well. And thank you so much for carving out some time to be here on the Facebook Live with me today. So, um, yeah, go ahead and give us a little bit of your background and who you are, and where you started off, where you were born, where you were raised, where you're at right now at life.
Well, absolutely. So I was actually born and raised in New York. My family has a background in business. My grandparents, outside of working in their fields, they also had side businesses as well. My mother was a school teacher, a business school administrator, and eventually became the partner of the largest female-owned business on Long Island, New York.
Mhm.
And so I was there through that process, and it was a training for all of us. And so I would go into the office on the weekends and help with the filing and answer the phones. I learned how to answer the phones professionally. I still remember that. I still remember that original phone call. Better Home Healthcare, may I help you? And so I still remember answering the phones like that. And so it inspired me to actually get into business myself at some point. 1998, I moved to Columbus, Ohio. Started had a My first real job, I guess you would call it. I was working for Airmark Food Services, and they created a position for me because I was overqualified for the position that they were offering, and so they created a position. They had never done that before in their history, and they created the position called general. And I tell people this all the time. That meant I was generally worn out every single night. I did multiple jobs, multiple facets. I learned about inventory stocking. I learned about not only the catering aspects of things, but I learned about really how to really run a kitchen. From there, I got into Lucent Technologies. I became a corporate security specialist. And I did that for a number of years, but my passion was always to get into business at some point. I just wasn't totally sure where to get started, even though my family had been in entrepreneurship. My first business was actually personal training, and I did mobilized personal training for a while. Failed miserably at that, so that was a life lesson that I learned. I learned about the importance of collecting my money and making sure that and all of those types of things. So it was a very educational time period. From there, I got into creating a program called the Hero Project, which I work with Columbus Schools and several other school districts. And the Hero Project was an acronym for Healthy Emotions, Relationship, and Outlook. And basically, my responsibility was to go in and teach character and integrity to the young people, which is something that is definitely lacking in today's society. What does it mean to have character? It means to make the right choices, have the right people around you, a full gambit of things. And so I would deputize these students to be heroes in their communities. One day, a woman comes up to me, and she's a professional. Actually, I was at a mall doing a presentation, and this woman says, "I can see you doing the same thing." She calls me over. She says, "Young man, I can see you doing the same thing with a suit and a tie on." And I was like, "Really? I'm going to take this program and that I'm doing for kids and give it to adults?" She said, "Yes, I can see you doing that." So what began happening is I began to hone that program and redevelop it for more of a corporate market, for more of a professional field. And so I took many of the basic things that I was teaching to these youth, because I found out that a lot of older folks still have not quite grown up in certain areas. And so we began to teach about character and integrity in the corporate market, in the religious field, as well as other venues. And what I began to find out as I was doing my studying, because every time I do a presentation, it's important that you study, that you know what you're talking about. And what I began to understand was that these corporations are spending billions of dollars a year on corporate training. However, they're not seeing the results that they desire to see. What's happening is that people tend to go back to what they were doing before. They go back to what's comfortable for them. And comfortability in the corporate market is dangerous. That means you're not going to progress. As a matter of fact, it means you're going to end up falling behind at some point. And so I developed a program where I go in and I teach character and integrity, and it's an entire curriculum-based training that really deals with the core root, which is character. Because if we don't have strong character amongst our leaders, strong character amongst our teams, no matter how much training you do, no matter how much inspiring you do, you're going to find that those individuals are going to revert back to where they were before, because they don't have the character and the integrity to support the goals that they were asking for. So that's basically a very quick, maybe a little bit long, summary of what I do. It's very, very compressed capsize of what I do.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you guys for those of you watching this and giving us a heart and a like and just welcoming Joseph. We appreciate you. And please go ahead and
Thank you.
share it with your friends. We want as many people as possible to hear from Joe today. So Joe, just to dig upon a little bit about, integrity is a big word. And
Mhm.
you just talked about character. So what does your program include? Like, can you tell us a little bit on what you focus on? What kind of character are we talking about, and what does integrity mean in the workplace?
Well, and first of all, integrity. I love this. I got this definition from my son years ago, and so I thought, well, this is the best definition ever. He had a character education program that was taking place in the school, but integrity, in short, is doing the right thing when no one is watching. See, it's very easy to do the right thing when someone is over your shoulder, when they're micromanaging, when they're watching your every single step. That's very easy. But what are you going to do when they take the reins off, when the leash is taken off your neck, and now you're given responsibilities to run a department, you're given responsibilities to produce in whatever field you're in. What are you going to do then? And if you don't have the integrity, you're going to again revert back to what you were doing before. You're not going to fulfill your responsibilities. As a matter of fact, you're probably end up being lazy, and I've seen that happen, and you're not going to strive to improve or to grow in your area of expertise. So you need to have integrity in everything that you're doing. Integrity means not just I'm going to do the right thing because I'm afraid my boss is going to catch me. We're talking about a heart transformation, okay? A complete heart transformation of the individual. Because if I'm only doing the right thing because I'm afraid I'm going to get punished, or because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, then you need to find a new career, because that's not the field for you. Okay. I want to do the right thing because it is a passion of mine. So I tell people, pursue your passion. Doing the right thing should be a passion of yours.
Mhm.
You're not just representing yourself, you're representing the organization. When you sign your name on that contract and you say, John Doe agrees to be an employee of whatever this particular organization is, I am agreeing that with the policies and the procedures of that organization, and I am agreeing that I am going to represent this organization to the fullest, and I'm going to maximize my personal potential so that the organization continue to grow and develop and acquire new customers and clients.
So, a lot of people like the idea of integrity and character, but they fall short in actually becoming like or being
Hmm.
transformed to really implement it. Just like you said, people spend money and attending seminars and then they go back to their old habits and things like that.
Hmm.
What makes your program effective? What makes your program different, um, so that people are actually learning and really being transformed?
Well, the number one thing, the most important thing is we start with the root, which is we want to develop a team of accountability around you. Okay, a team of accountability. So I have something that I developed, I call an accountability core, and it's a group of individuals that's going to keep you on point and on task for whatever it is your specific goal is. Okay, so you state whatever your goal is, and then this team that's around you, that you surrounded yourself with, is going to ensure that you are following through with your commitments, okay? Because you are making a commitment. When I say, let's say that by the end of this year, I want to have 10 additional clients. Well, your accountability core is going to ensure that you are fulfilling your commitments to achieving that goal. Beyond that, your accountability core should also be individuals who are going to stretch you in your personal character, stretch you in your personal growth. It's not just about acquiring the clients, it's about how do you continue to maintain those relationships. And in today's culture, unfortunately, we're too numbers driven. We need to become more relational in our approach to business. So when I get to know people, I genuinely want to know who they are. And so I emphasize that. You want to get to know your clients, you want to get to know your customers on a personal level. They're not just passing you a check. When you develop those relationships, that's going to lead to other clients and other relationships. And that's how your business grows, and that's how it can be sustained over a period of time, right? Because we don't want to just get a one-hit wonder. You get money in the bank, and now you don't have money coming back in again because this person's purchased your product or your service, and that's the end of it. You want to develop a relationship with them, because you develop a relationship with them, they're going to continue to invest in your product and your service. And what's more important is they're going to now, by word of mouth, begin telling other people just how wonderful your product or your service is. And word of mouth is the most powerful advertisement you can have. It's not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's not all these other marketing techniques. It is word of mouth that's going to be your number one marketing technique. And so my program really emphasizes, number one, we want to develop an accountability core around you. Number two, let's set some realistic goals, some smart goals, some achievable goals. Let's have them as being relational to where you want to go. Let's make them time sensitive. Okay, so these are not open-ended goals and somewhere on a great by and by, I want to get another 10 clients.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is the specific date that we want to get these clients by. And then your team is also going to identify areas of weakness in your approach. And they need to identify areas of personal weakness. It's not designed to tear you down, it's designed to build you up. So if you're not a good communicator, we need to work on your communication skills so that you can effectively communicate to your clients, your services, and the resources that you offer. If you're not good at administration, maybe that's not your thing. Well, maybe we need to find an administrator for you that can handle these affairs so you can focus on what it is that you need to do. So this is what we end up doing. And so it's basically a 20-week program that are designed. It's 4 different books. We talk about accountability, we talk about character, we talk about integrity, and we talk about being dependable in the workforce.
That's amazing. I think one of the biggest shortcomings of a lot of people nowadays is really relationship, working with people and really having that relationship. And also, I think a lot of people don't understand that to be successful, all you need is really what's keeping you away from your success is your skills. And you got to
Yes,
develop those skills, right? And
absolutely.
yeah, and it's a lot of, people think that they're either born with it or not, but it's definitely
It's not
developed.
true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's shift gears a little bit, Joe. So let me ask you, what's your one accomplishment in your life that you're most proud of?
My number one accomplishment is my family. above any and everything else besides my relationship with my God is my family. I think that you have to be you have to have a point of grounding in your life. Everything can't be business, business, business. You need to have a personal life as well to balance things out. Now, I've met a lot of people who have had more money than you can count, and they're miserable because they don't have balance in their lives. My family provides me balance. I get to go home to a wife, my son. I get to hang out with my kid, wrestle with him. And he's a big boy now, so I got to make sure I stay in the gym so he doesn't catch up to me. But having balance is important, and you don't want to get so consumed with chasing after money that you miss out on what's important in life. So if you establish the relationships, the money will come.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just the reality.
Mhm.
Establish the relationships, and the money will come.
Mhm.
I don't build my relationships off of round peg in hole, that anybody can fit into a hole, and hey, if you fall off, then that's fine with me. No, it's important to have a very grounded, centered life, and your family will help bring you back to reality. When you think you've got it all going on, and you think that you are really successful, your family is there, and they're going to bring you back to earth. Now, they're going to tell you how wonderful you are. You know this because you have
Yeah.
children, right? So they tell you how wonderful you are, how fantastic you are, but they're also going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, there's an area here, weakness, that we need to address. And
Mhm.
you need that grounding in your life. You need your faith, and you need your family to keep you grounded.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. And success means different things to different people. So, how do you define success, Joe?
Okay, so this is really, really important. I know that this is going to knock a lot of people's socks off. Okay, so you guys prepared? All right, I hope that you're ready for this. Success is not about the amount of money that you have in your bank account. Success is being able to have control over the money that you have in your bank account. So let's say you have $1 million in your bank account, but you have $1.5 million worth of bills. Okay, so it's all subjective.
Yeah.
It's about, can you manage the money that you currently have? If you can manage the money that you currently have, I don't care if you have, let's say you have $1,000 in your bank account, which the truth of the matter is that's actually more money than most people have in their bank account. But if you have $1,000 in your bank account and you're able to manage that successfully, then you'll be able to manage the $1 million successfully. And you can tell that money where it's going to go. But if I find myself in debt, if I find myself in a situation where every single dollar I have has someone else's name on it, I don't care how much money you make, that's not a successful life.
Yeah.
A successful life is being able to do the things you want to do with your finances, whatever amount you're making, and being happy with that, and being satisfied with that. When I say satisfied, I don't mean being complacent, so don't get me wrong. You never want to be complacent, but I'm going to be happy with what I have, and then I can grow that because I'm managing what I have successfully. So that's what success is. It's not about the amount, it's what you do with the amount that you have.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautifully put, really. And I know that, a lot of successful people who've ever been successful in anything they wanted to achieve, they know that they have to overcome a humongous amount of challenges.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be there without it. So, just from your own story, if you could tell us what was the toughest challenge that you had to overcome to where you are right now, and how did you pull it through?
Well, let me say this, that success is not a straight path. Let's just make this very clear.
Yeah.
It's not simple. As a matter of fact, this has been. Let's see if I can find. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So if this was a graph, this would be my life, right?
Yeah.
And there were some dips that came way down here, some went way up there. Okay, so let me make that very clear. But probably the most difficult time period for me was when I got laid off from corporate America, and I was doing very well. I don't think I really started my first business as of yet. overqualified again to really, and this was the time when the economy was really starting to do a major downturn. Okay. And now I had just gotten custody of my son. So, what am I going to do? Because I don't have income coming in. I need to raise this child. I still have bills that need to be paid. I still have expenses. So what am I going to do? And it was an extraordinarily difficult time. So that's when actually why I created my first business. It was because I needed to make money so I could put food on the table.
Mhm.
And it was a struggle. And as a matter of fact, it was so difficult. I actually went through a bout of depression. I remember one particular holiday, and my son had gone for visitation with his mom, and I wouldn't leave my apartment. I literally closed the shades and was laying in bed depressed because I didn't know which way to turn. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how all these pieces were going to fit together because, and you know, as a parent, it's a lot of pressure. You need to provide for your child and you want to provide for your child. You want to give them a better life. It's not all about you. See, if it was just me, I could maybe have had that Steve Harvey story where, you know, he slept in his car and whatnot. And so then he
Yeah.
went out and did the thing. You can't do that with a kid. Okay. So it was very depressing for me. And then one day I was actually in prayer and I really heard God say to me, "Get up." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm share my story, faith as well with you guys. And heard him say, "Get up." And I was like, "Okay, I can't lay in this bed. I mean, this is not going to solve anything. Me being depressed because I can't figure things out and crying because I don't know which way to go because I was shedding a whole lot of tears and eating a whole lot of ice cream. And so that's not going to solve this problem. I've got to get up and do something about it. And so I began to develop a strategy and a plan with the help of the Lord that began to dig our family out of that situation. And here's what's funny: when you take action, it will actually attract, and people don't really realize this, it will attract other individuals into your life who are going to help you to become successful. So you're not going to get there by yourself. So as I began to take action, opportunities began to develop. No one handed me an opportunity. I earned those opportunities because I got out there, and you can use the word hustle or whatever you want to use, but I put my feet to the pavement and made it happen. And was it easy? No, it was not. Were there some hiccups? Yes, there was. But it was more than about me. I understood that my why was not because Joe wanted to become rich and famous. My why was because Joe, number one, needed to take care of his family. But outside of that, Joe wanted to make an impact in the world that was around him. And that's where your success really comes from. It's making an impact in the world around you. It's not in going and trying to hoard all the money that you can, but how can I become a blessing to the people around me? And so once I decided to do that, things began to change.
That's amazing. So what was the biggest lesson you learned from that experience that helped you in overcoming other challenges in your life afterwards?
Oh, very good
And
question.
what what can you say to someone who's going through some challenging time right now, who's watching this video?
Well, I will say to you the same words that came to me that day, which are get up. Don't lay there and keep getting beat down, smacked down, and beat up. Don't allow yourself to get stepped on. Believe in yourself. Believe that there is a way and that God has made a way in your life. Um, I'm going to tell you this story really quick. And I wrote this actually in one of my books. So, and this does refer to this particular thing, but I talked about when I was a little kid. And when I was a little boy, I was actually walking home from school one day. Okay. And I was with my cousin, and there were these two bullies behind us. Okay, so now you've got to picture life as these two bullies. All right, picture this. And so these bullies are behind us and they're throwing rocks at us. All right, we're going home. I'm with my cousin who's a girl. She probably could have handled herself, but I was trying to be, a little macho nerd because I was a little nerd at the time. And so they throwing these rocks at us. And I'm walking home and I'm like, I'm trying to ignore what's happening. I'm trying to avoid, because I didn't want to confront what was happening. That's how a lot of us deal with life, right? Life is pelting you with issues, but you don't really want to deal with it. So you try to avoid dealing with it, hoping that it's going to resolve itself. So these boys are throwing rocks at us, excuse me, and I turn around and I did in my little kitty voice. I told them, you know, what kids do, quit it, right? That's what we
Yeah.
do, quit it. So then I turn back around and keep walking, and now they're throwing rocks at us again, right? And it's still, so I turn back around. I'm like, quit it, right? In my little kitty voice, and about probably about 10 octaves higher. And so I'm walking again, and they're still throwing rocks at us. So I turn around and I tell the kids, you know, again, to quit it. Well, one of the kids, one of the boys smacks me in the face, okay? Knocks my glasses off my face. Oh man, I proceeded to whip his tail.
Mm.
And then the other kid, so I'm not advocating violence here. I just want to let you guys know that I'm not advocating violence. Even though the scripture just say the kingdom of God suffers violence and the violent take it by force. But I'm not advocating violence. So anyway, what happens is that you know the kid knocks the glasses off my face and I just haul off. I lay him down. And the other boy, who was actually bigger, he takes off running. Okay? Let me ask you a question. Do you think those boys ever threw another rock at me again? Never.
Never.
Why? Because I made the choice to turn around and confront the situation, solve the situation. And so you've got to make the choice in your life that you're going to confront the situation. It's not going to go away on its own. You need to address it. When life is punching you, you've got to punch back. You can't be a softy. You can't be a baby about it. You can't be you can't hope and wish it away. And guess what? It's not going to just be prayed away. You have to take action. So you can pray about it, and I'm fine with that. I think you should pray about it. So you get some strategies, and then you got to pick up your weapons and get to work and conquer that situation. So that really taught me, along as well as some of those other situations, that you've got to fight back. You cannot continue to allow yourself to remain in the position that you're in. And you got to have the right strategy in doing that. Okay. So, guys, that's my word. You get up and fight back. Stop allowing yourself to get stepped on.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, to ever win in life, you really have to have the champion's mindset, and a champion fights back. You only can win
Mm-hmm.
by fighting, and very, very important. Um, I know that a lot of successful people, they all attribute their success to habits. Okay, so what's one success habit that has helped you in life? I know you and I talked about work ethic and things like that. I don't know if that's going to be the one, but just if you could share with us, what's the success habit that Joe Woodley can attribute to where he's at right now?
Accountability, accountability, accountability. You've got to be accountable to somebody. It's not all about you. You don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all together. None of us has it all together. That's why you have to have people in your life to help to guide you and show you the way to go. Now, every opportunity may not be the right opportunity, and that's perfectly fine. But that's what your accountability is partner is there for, is to help to guide you along that path and to show you the right ways to go. I would not have grown spiritually in my life if I did not have the accountability partners I have. I would not have developed the business relationships I've developed, particularly over the last few years, if I did not have the accountability partners that I have. I would not have the relationships that I have without the accountability partners I have. I would not have the wife I have without the accountability partners. I would not be the father I am without the accountability partners. You need to establish some relationships with people who are going to be real with you and establish those relationships with people that are going to answer those questions. So I'm not an expert at everything, but I know who to go to ask to get answers and solutions in certain areas, right? So you have to have accountability partners, and they got to be people that you can be honest with and that you can be raw with, and they need to be people that can come at you in a way that even may be a little bit offensive, even a little bit offensive, because sometimes you need to see, sometimes you need a little bit of a nudge, right? And I have people that do that. That give me a little bit of a nudge and they'll say, you know, Joe, just do better the next time. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
And then I got people around me that are going to straight up smack me in the back of the head. And you know they're brave because I'm a big guy. You know I'm a big man. So, but they don't care because they are more concerned with my success. They are more concerned with how I'm going to achieve my goals in life. They're not in it for themselves. See, that's another thing about a great accountability partner. They're not in it for themselves. They believe in you and they're going to invest in you because they believe you have the potential and the prowess to get to where it is that you're seeking. So accountability partners and then being answerable to those people. Be willing to submit to that authority in your life. Okay? Because again, you don't have all the answers. So that's very, very, very important. I make sure I check in with that. I make sure that I follow through. I'll go in and say, hey, look, this is what I've achieved this week. This is what I have not achieved this week. They may ask me, why have you not achieved it? And then I've got to be answerable to that. Well, why didn't you achieve this, Joe? Well, because, and they're like, I don't want to hear the excuses. That's what they'll say. I don't want to hear the excuses. Okay, let's get this straightened out. Okay, so it's important to have that accountability.
A lot of times people, I think it's because we're raised and we're accountable to our parents to some extent, and then we grow up, we go out of the house, and we don't want to be accountable to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So most people have a problem really submitting to authority
That's
willfully.
right.
And I think that's the problem. But if people haven't really practiced the whole being accountable to someone kind of thing, how can they start? Where do they look for accountability partners? And how can we simply make them understand how they can go about it once they're convinced that they need that for success?
Well, you need to find somebody that's in a place that you desire to go, first of all. Okay, so I'm not going to ask someone, let's say I'm looking to purchase my first home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go to someone who's never owned a home before and ask them, how do I purchase a home? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find someone who is in a position that I desire to go in.
Yeah.
And then I need to give them permission to speak into my life. So I'm going to tell them, I give you permission to hold me accountable. I give you permission to correct me when I need correcting.
Mm-hmm.
I give you permission. Here's what's key. I give you permission to love me.
Yeah.
Because love is, we've got this love term twisted up that love means just allowing people to do whatever they want to do. No, love means I'm going to correct you when you need correcting because I'm looking out for what's best for you. When people are generally when people are resistant to accountability in a lot of ways is because they come from maybe an abusive environment or a very controlling environment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you come out of that, you're very resistant to this. So if you had a parent that was overbearing,
Mm-hmm.
a parent that was very controlling, or maybe you had a mentor who might have been like that, right? You're going to be resistant to anything anyone has to say because in your mind, you don't want to open yourself up to the opportunity to get abused again.
Yeah.
So you got to find someone that's not going to be abusive, that really genuinely cares about you, and then allow them to walk you through that process, okay? Because it is a process, particularly if you've ever been abused or neglected or hurt. It's hard to open yourself up, but you've got to be willing to give it a shot because that's the only way you're going to get to where it is that you want to go.
Mm. Very good, very good. We're getting towards the end of the interview here, and one of the things that I want to ask you is, let's see, you kind of answered a lot of the questions that I was about to ask you. What are three main things that you think hold people back from success? A lot of people want to be successful, but something is holding them back, and they just go about life without really figuring it out and just living day to day, trying to be,
Mm-hmm.
just paying the bills and not really having a goal or anything. What are the three things that hold people back, like the main things from success?
Okay, I would say most people would say fear of failure, but I would actually say fear of success.
What does
And
that
what do
mean?
I mean by that? I mean that they don't really think that they are worthy of that success. Okay. They think that someone was someone is really must have been really special, or they got lucky. That's how they got to where they are. They got really lucky. Well, luck is, there's no such thing as luck. Luck is nothing but skill meets opportunity. That's all luck is. Skill meets opportunity. If you're prepared when the opportunity comes about, you'll step right into the right position.
Yeah.
But the number one thing is, I believe, is that people are fearful of success because they don't think that they're worthy. They won't measure up. They don't match up, and because of that, they don't pursue that. What were some of the other points I gave you? I can't remember some of the other ones I ended up giving you. I think I gave you 3 points. Read them off to me, and I can explain them to you. I don't
Okay,
have my notes.
I'm gonna have to pull it off from, but let's go to the next point. So why don't you tell us? I know that you've written 15 books. 15 is
Yes,
a lot of number. You're an author,
a
published
lot.
author. How'd you get into writing? And tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I was actually one of those individuals. I was an extraordinary introvert when I was younger,
I'm not gonna
and
believe that.
yes, I was. Believe it.
Oh,
It was
wow.
really bad. It was
Okay.
so bad. I'm going to tell you a story here, and I love telling stories. So it was so bad. I remember I was on a school bus one day, and this girl sits next to me, and I was so nervous. I just started sweating. I mean, it was just like she was really, she was a pretty young girl, but I didn't know what to say, and I was just like sweating. And I'm like, why am I sweating? I was just that shy. I always try to get myself a seat in the back of the class. If I was in the church choir, I tried to wiggle my way to the back. And so I was just very shy. And so writing became a way for me to express myself and my emotions and the feelings that I had. And I was a very observant individual, and I would observe life around me and things that I saw. I saw injustices, and when I say injustices, I don't just mean um, I don't just mean just racial injustices. I meant spiritual injustices, family injustices. The people were not living to their potential, and I felt that my life, in many ways, reflected that as well. So after moving to Ohio, and I had observed all these things, I began to write about some of the experiences that I had. And my first book I wrote was really about finding personal healing. I thought I was writing it for everybody else, but it was really about finding personal healing and being restored back to my faith, being restored to, I guess you would say, my right mind, and having the right attitude, because I had turned away from, in many ways, the structures and the systems in life that I felt were oppressive to people. And what I found is that it wasn't the systems that were oppressive. It was the way that we were implementing those systems. Okay, so I talked about my journey getting back into church and everything else. And everything that I wrote, I found a common theme. It was really about empowering other people. It was really about seeing the best in yourself and striving to become a better version of yourself. Don't be settled with where you are now. God has given you every gift and every talent that you need in life. He really has. It's all there inside of you. The problem is that most people don't see it. So what I try to do is to help people to tap into that, to see what's inside of them, to avoid making excuses. Like I wrote one book called You Were Born to Win, so suck it up, buttercup. And I talked about this entitlement mentality that's
Mm-hmm.
going on in our society, where people feel like people owe them something. People should just be giving it to me. Nobody's going to give you anything in life. You're going to have to earn it. That's just the reality. No one is going to give you anything, and no one owes you anything. I know this may be a controversial statement, but I'm going to say it anyway because this is who I am now. Those shy days are over with. But your reparations ain't coming. No one's sending you $1 million in your bank account. The government's not going to bail you out. So guess what? You might as well figure out what you're going to do. All right. You're going to have to take some action. There's no program out there that's going to solve your problems. None. They're not designed to do that. And as a matter of fact, I often tell people that you need to avoid many of those programs, because if you allow yourself to take that money from the government, you become subjected to whatever their rules and their regulations are. So when they tell you to jump, you're going to jump. And not only that, you're going to ask them how high you need to jump. If you really want to have control over your life, that you're going to have to get up and do it on your own with the help of God and ask for and get the right team around you, but you can't rely on everyone else to do it for you.
Wow, that's really good. Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I can't even rephrase it. It's really amazing. That's true. We have to take personal responsibility for our success, or it's never going to happen. And
That's
just
right.
like you said, if we want to receive it from someone else, we're going to be abide by those rules, and they're not in our favor, or it doesn't really
Right.
give you freedom. Yeah.
That's right.
So a couple of things that you said that people, what holds people was limited by exposure and unwilling to be held accountable. You talked about the accountability
There you
part,
go.
but what do you mean
Hmm.
by limited by exposure? How
So,
does that hold people back?
so your environment shapes your perception of the world around you. If all you know is hood, then you're going to have a hood mentality.
Mhm.
If all you know is living in a trailer park, then all you're going to have is a trailer park mentality. You got to allow yourself to be exposed to some environments that are different and some people that are different to expand your world view. Okay. And so, one thing that I am intentional about is I like to get to know people who don't think like I think.
Yeah.
I like to get to know people who have different political persuasions, who come from different ideologies, different backgrounds. Why do I want to do that? Because I do want to get to know those individuals, but I also want to expand my worldview. I
Mm-hmm.
want to know how I can approach those individuals. How can you market
Okay, I think we
um, you don't have a relationship with, or you don't is I want to have a healthy respect for individuals, a healthy respect. All right. So if I don't know, it's much easier to be disrespectful toward people that you don't know. If I know you, I can be much far more respectful towards you. So several years ago, I had a fantastic experience. I went up to this resort, okay, and it was the church I was at this time, at that particular time, and I had never been to a restaurant before that didn't have prices on the menu. All right. So I get up to this resort and praise God that a pastor at the time, covered the bill because it was a pretty good bill. But I remember sitting down. Actually, when I walked into this facility, there were crystal chandeliers hanging down from the ceiling. I'm not talking about glass. I'm not talking about cubic zirconia. They were genuine crystal chandeliers. Gorgeous property. I sit down at this table. I look on this menu and I'm like, where are the prices? Like, what's going on here? Right? But it expanded my worldview to what was the potential that was out there. Because I began to ask myself, well, why can't I eat at restaurants that don't have a price on the menu? What's stopping me from doing that? Now, maybe you're fine with burgers and fries every day, but I like a little bit of filet mignon every once in a while, right? I like a little bit of salmon. I actually like escargot. Some people don't like that. That's not their thing, but it helped to expand my worldview. So if you have a very limited worldview, it's going to prevent you from succeeding in a whole lot of areas, and it's going to cut off the relationships that you need in order to expand.
And a lot of people feel uncomfortable if it's not something that they've been around. People shy
Mm-hmm.
away from it. They kind of like restrain, because I personally, I'm from Eritrea. I'm an immigrant, and a lot of immigrants tend to stay, even in the Western world, they want to stay within their community. They don't want to integrate. And by doing that, I noticed that they're actually limiting their exposure. And what's
Mm-hmm.
possible here and the kind of lifestyle that they lead is becomes limited because of that. So that's very good point. Um,
Let
so
me
Joe,
follow up real quick. Let me
yeah,
follow
go
up
ahead.
real quick too. You're also damaging yourself. Whether you believe it or not, you're damaging yourself. So you've got to look at life like this. Life is constantly moving forward. Time is not going to stop because you decide you're going to take a break. This is not the way it is, all right? So most people think that if I just stay in this one particular place, then I'm going to be all right. If I just stay around a group of people, then I'm going to be okay, and then eventually I'll get there at some point. The fact of the matter is, if you do not expand your worldview, and I share this with people whether they're immigrants or not immigrants, because there's a lot of people that stay within their own particular communities and don't want to shift out of them, right? Because I think that my way is the right and my way is the only way. So I want to stay around people who think like me, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is if I do that, life continues to progress forward. I think that I'm
We're having a bad connection, I think, Joe.
happen. Hello?
Yeah, it
Are
was
you
cutting
there?
off a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So
You're
what I
back.
was saying was what you got to be aware of is that if you stay where you are, you're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
Life is going to keep going ahead of you, and you're going to be stuck right where you are, and then you'll be looking 10, 15, 20 years from now and wondering why you're in the same place you were before. It's because you didn't allow yourself to expand your worldview. You got to grow.
You know, one of the best advices someone gave me is make sure that you're the dumbest person in the room, instead of like really leveling up to, you know, like being around people who are at your level. Make sure that you're actually not the smartest but the dumbest person in the room. So always
Yep.
be around people that are ahead of you, and that
Hmm.
really helps. So what's your favorite success quote, Joe?
Oh, my favorite success quote. I'm going to pull this up because I want to get it absolutely 110% correct.
Okay.
Okay. And it's actually by Colin Powell. And he says, there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. A dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. So I love that quote from Colin Powell because again, you have to prepare for it. You got to train. You got to continue to learn. Like you shared about, the best lesson that you learned, best advice you ever received. That's what I received. You got to keep learning.
Mhm.
Open yourself up to learning, and I'm not just talking about scholastic learning. Learn about people. Study people's behaviors, observe them, see what makes them tick. All right. And when you do those things, you can prepare yourself when you go into those environments. See, that's why I can go into a corporate environment because I've been in an environment before and I've worked with people in that environment. But I can also go into another environment, I don't care whether it's on the streets, I don't care whether it's on a hood in the hood, I don't care where it is. I can go into any of those environments and I feel comfortable in
Mhm.
those environments because I allowed myself to learn and I prepared to make sure that I can succeed in those areas. And I often tell people this as well. I have succeeded at every single thing I've done in my life, but I've also failed at every single thing I've done in my life. And it's
Mhm.
through the lessons I learned in those failures where I was able to succeed. All right. So don't be afraid of failing. All right. If you're not failing at something, then I feel sorry for you because that means that you're not even trying.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to take a risk. Take the risk, take the leap, and make it happen.
Awesome. Actually, one of our viewers had a question that really relates to what you just said. And what he said was, I don't know if I can pull it. Let me see. Um, his question was, yeah, his question was, he said, Dear Woodley, do you think there are some circumstances that you can't overcome however hard you try?
I don't believe there's any circumstance in your life that you cannot overcome outside of dying, because everybody's going to die. All right. I mean, this just as long as you have breath in your body, you have the opportunity to overcome those situations. So my advice to you would be you need to find someone that has the answers to the questions that you have.
Mhm.
So if you don't have the answer, that doesn't mean you need to keep beating your head against the wall until you figure this thing out. Go to someone who has the answer. Find a mentor, find a business person, uh, Google it, whatever you need to do. Find the answer to your solution. There is never a situation in your life that you cannot overcome. Let me give you an example. I'm going to give you actually a story outside of business. I'll talk about a physical issue. Okay, so probably about a little bit about 6 years ago, I was in a car accident. Okay, suffered a catastrophic back injury. You would not know it today, but I had a catastrophic back injury. I was hobbling, I was twisted up. I would talk to the doctor. The doctor, I went to 3 or 4 different doctors. And you know what they would all do? They'd all sit back in their chairs, put their hands behind their heads, and they would say, "This is impossible. I don't even know how you're even walking. I can't figure it out." They told me that I would never work out again in my life. That's what they told me. It's the honest truth. You will never lift weights again in your life. What am I doing today? I'm lifting weights. As a matter of fact, I went to the gym this morning and lifted weights then. Okay. Why is it that? Because I had the determination, I had the focus, and I also brought some people around me who could help me identify some weaknesses that I needed to address so that I would not only be as good as I was before, but I could be better in a lot of areas. Okay. So there's always a solution. You may not have the answer, but you need to pursue the person that does.
Yeah. It's all about the mindset. You have to
That's
believe that
right.
there's always a solution, and it also really ties in what you just said with personal growth, because if you're seeking
Hmm.
solution, finding answers, you're growing in the process, and that's really why you really overcome anything basically in life. So let's talk about the event, the big event that's coming up in Ohio,
Oh,
in
yeah.
Columbus. I know you have an event coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's called the Power of an Author event. It's coming up next Wednesday. If you go on my page, you can actually find a link. You can get tickets, or you can get tickets at the door. It's going to be held at Cohatch in Worthington, Ohio, on High Street. And so, what we're going to be doing is we're going to inspire you and also to show you the process behind writing your book and getting your book published. All right. I've written 15 books. There's going to be other people speaking as well. They're going to help to get into some details. It's a 3 hour event. We're going to be some workshops here and there. But what we really want to do is get you fired up. I get people who come to me all the time and say, I want to write a book. Or I have a friend of mine who is interested in writing a book, or they have a story they want to share. And I always ask them, well, what's stopping you? And I get a million excuses. And then 2, 3 years later, they come to me again and say, you know what? I'm thinking about writing a book. I have a friend of mine that's thinking about writing a book. I have a story I want to share. Well, guess what, folks? Here's your opportunity to share your story.
Yeah.
Come on out to the event and we will inspire you, we will instruct you, we will work with you. I want to see your story written. See, I don't just go out there and just promote my own products. I have friends of mine who've written books recently, and I'm so proud of them for doing that and have been talking about doing so for a long time. But you got to be inspired to do so. You got to be fired up, and you got to put the work into it. Writing a book is not just sitting down and throwing some words on a piece of paper. You're going to have to put some work into it. There have been times when I've had to be up at 3, 4 in the morning because I get a thought and I need to put it down on paper before I lose it. And so it's important. We're going to take you through that process. So I invite you out, guys, out again. It's called the Power of an Author event. It's going to again be in Worthington, Ohio, on High Street. And so again, there's a link on my page. I'll put it up there right after we're done with this video. But if you're really serious about writing, if you're really serious about putting your book together, and you're done with, kind of all this talking about what you're going to do, come on out to the event, and we're going to show you what it's all about.
I'm excited about the event myself, and it's in my heart for me to write a book as well. So I'm definitely going to be there and
All
get
right.
inspired. But if you can just share with our listeners just a little bit, what's the importance of writing a book? Like a lot, when I knew I was going to write a book like a few years ago,
Mhm,
I said, why should I write a book? Somebody told me I should, but I said, why should I?
mhm.
And I have nothing to say. What's the point? Now I know there's pretty good stuff coming. Like there's a power in writing a book. And can you
Yes.
tell us why should people even consider writing a book and telling their story?
Well, number one is the legacy that you leave, not just for your own lineage, but for other people who will read this this product because those words will last forever. So there's the legacy component behind it, but it's also empowering and equipping. We were put on this earth to make a difference in other people's lives. That's why we were put here. We're not born to just come in, breathe air, eat food, and die. I mean, that's not living. You want to make an impact in someone's life, and your story of healing, your story of overcoming your challenges, your story of survival will not only empower other individuals to pursue their own stories of overcoming and survival, but I found, and I want to share this with you, I found that even with my first book that I wrote, I found healing in writing my own story. That there were areas that I had not even identified in my own life, the challenges that I was facing, some areas that I had avoided, that writing this story had forced me to confront and say, oh, wow, Joe, you really have not dealt with this area the way that you think you thought you've dealt with it. And in finding that healing, I was able to not only continue writing other books, but I was able to take those stories. That's why I'm able to go out and speak so freely because I'm very transparent in my books. I'm
Yeah.
able to go out and speak very freely, whether it's to a church or a business group or whatever, and I share my stories of failure and the challenges and the successes because I want to see other people succeed. I want to see other people overcome. That's why you need to write your book. I don't care what the particular topic it is. It's about impacting someone's life. If it's a cookbook, you're impacting people to become better cooks or chefs or whatever. If it's a story about overcoming abuse, it's to encourage people to come out of those situations and find their purpose in life. Whatever your particular story is, it needs to be shared because it's about impacting other people's life. It's not all about you. It's not about I'm going to write the next bestseller so I can become a multi-millionaire. If I can reach one person and change one person's life, then I've made a world of difference. Okay? You need to write your story, folks. And no more excuses about why you can't do it. I don't want to hear that I don't have the time. I don't want to hear that I don't have the energy. I don't want to hear that I don't have the verbiage. I don't have the intellect. I don't have any. I don't want to hear any of that. If you're serious about writing your book and you want to make a difference in someone's life, you need to get to it. And so I invite you to come on out and we're going to challenge you to do that.
And what time is the event?
So the doors open at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
In Columbus.
Yes, in Columbus. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on this interview. I really had fun and learned a lot. And I hope that our viewers were also inspired and learned a lot and got some nuggets. Please go ahead and comment and share and just let us know what you liked the most about today's interview. But Joe, I do thank you for your time and just
Thank
keep
you.
rocking it.
Thank you. Oh, yes. And if anyone wants to contact me or
Yes.
get connected, they can go through my email, which is Joe Woodley, Woodley at joespeakslife.com, or they can just go to my website, joespeakslife.com, and they can reach out and we can talk about anything.
Awesome. And they can follow you on Facebook too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you have a great day. Thank you for being here today, Joe.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you,
You too.
guys.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.